So, as some of you may already know, my YouTube journey is over. Not so much as a single strike on my account up until Christmas a few days ago, in which they both issued a strike and simultaneously pulled several old videos down for, quote, hate speech, then swiftly denied all appeals, and then promptly shut down my entire account just days later. My intent here isn't to bemoan the corruption or incompetence of YouTube, or even highlight how thoroughly weaponized and aggressive they've become in their attempts to force the erasure of some cultures while simultaneously shoving others in the faces of every last one of us, no matter how uninteresting or revolting they might be, no matter how little they might speak to us or resonate. The intention of this short video isn't to do this, because everyone paying attention here already knows the score and recognizes YouTube as the hijacked and co-opted institution that it is. The epitome of institutional capture in the pop culture sphere. My ability to communicate what I know needs to be communicated shouldn't be significantly hindered. Likely, I think it'll end up being the opposite. There are rumors that Twitter, or X, will be creating a video hosting structure that may well soon rival YouTube. In the meantime, I'll be uploading older videos to both Rumble and Odysee, so that the entire catalog remains up. And I'll post this entire catalog list in the highlights section of Twitter. Of course, this is an annoying and unwelcome setback in the short term. I've just finished the latest Subverted History video, planning to post it to YouTube before the new year, and was all set to begin posting several short-form videos, with 2 already completed and several others on the way. But once the immediate sting wears off, there's also something clarifying and freeing about moments like this, and this is why I wanted to create this short video, just to say a few words on the topic of adversity and setback. I'd suggest 2 of the most important of all lessons in life, recognitions that can help guide and orient as we face inevitable hurdles and obstacles, are these. Firstly, maintain perspective. Recognize that literally no matter what you're facing, far worse has been faced, and by some of the most thoroughly good and genuine and well-meaning people. And try to recognize it as a blessing that your travails, as massive and looming as they may be at the moment, are relatively small in comparison. Secondly, recognize that there is always a path forward. Self-pity and depression and sadness serves no one, least of all yourself, and only serves to dig your pit deeper, and ultimately push others away. Feel what you must, process it as fully as you're able, and try to learn every last lesson it has to teach. But then bury it in an unmarked grave and move forward. At times, only the next short step in your path seems clear and visible. At other blessed times, you catch sight of a long stretch ahead into the distance. But in either case, the immediate term task is always the same. One step at a time, forcing one foot in front of the other, allowing your internal compass to steer you, and ensure that while we can't always be sure we're headed precisely in the right direction at any given moment, that we're at least approximately moving toward our goal, as opposed to backsliding or moving away. One last point about my specific situation before I put it to rest. I mentioned a moment ago how happenings like this can be both clarifying and freeing. In this specific case, it's clarifying to have this reminder of just who and what we're dealing with. Not some reasonable and rational actors willing to, at the very least, stick to their own guidelines and policies and issue strikes or warnings to then work with the creator to ensure they know what they violated and why, and how they might attempt to avoid doing so in the future. No, we're dealing with the most biased and partisan and closed-minded political and ideological actors, both hypocritical and dishonest, for whom these platforms act as tools and weapons. And when I call it freeing, it's because I've consciously made an effort to moderate my tone, my communication style, and my ideas expressed in exchange for continuing to reach that niche and thankfully shrinking audience that uses only YouTube and no other platform. Telling myself that if and when they pulled the plug, especially if it happened to be in a duplicitous and unjust manner like this, without any warnings or discussions or strikes, that my tone would change accordingly. Not out of spite for any single platform, importantly, but because I'd feel it completely justified. After all, if I put forth my best effort to be reasonable and meet halfway, only to have these bridges then be repeatedly burned by those on the other side, this can only signal that building bridges is no longer the best use of time and energy, and that those on the other side have essentially chosen war at any cost. So, while I don't think it's ideal to proactively set fire to bridges, I think it may now be time to avoid the excess time and energy expense involved in putting out the fires already raging, especially and specifically in cases in which you don't intuitively sense many brothers or kin on the other side. This will be my own personal policy, anyway. I've hardly even scratched the surface of doing and saying all I feel most compelled to do and say. Long story short, expect much more content in the near future, especially short or mid-length videos, posted both here on X and on Rumble and Odysee. And know that the Subverted History series will certainly continue unabated, until I consider it finished. And expect a great deal of writing to finally be published. First to the Subscribestar feed, but if a Substack feels welcomed, I may well go that route. I feel the need to communicate quite a bit fairly quickly, and I simply, obviously, can't put it all in video form. At the very least, not to the standard I'd like to hold to. Expect a more forceful and aggressive tone, though hopefully more righteous indignation than angry or hateful. And expect much more of a concrete philosophy and ideology laid out for discussion, and greater specifics and elaboration on what I feel our collective path forward might be. It's cliché, of course, because nearly all great truths are, but when one door closes, another always opens. This holds true for my specific situation, just as it holds true across the board for all of us at the broadest level. When one chapter ends, it allows for the beginning of a new one. If we look around us with a keen eye, we're surrounded by developments we would have never thought possible even just a year or two ago. Things now being voiced openly we could have never imagined might be voiced. Stances and ideas and concepts being embraced we wouldn't have thought people might have the courage for. 2025 should be the year we collectively hit the gas and cease allowing any of our norms or conventions to be determined by those that so openly hate us. If they insist on creating their own sick and disoriented little world, they're free to do so, off to the side, but they won't be carrying any of us along with them. I tend to think they've recognized just how unpopular their worldview is, and this seems to have sparked a frenetic panic. The goal behind actions like destroying my YouTube channel, of course, is an attempt to further fracture our unity and cohesion, to prevent our message reaching receptive ears, and cause followers and like minds to fall away. It's my hope and expectation that YouTube no longer has such monopolistic power here, and that through artful usage of other platforms and venues, most of you will continue to follow, even potentially support, and find my videos and content elsewhere. If I can count on a subset of you to do just this, I can finally begin to say and do anything and everything I think needs to be done, without worrying about how any specific individual platform might react. And I'd like to make two all-important promises here and now. Firstly, that I can never be bought, co-opted, or in any way forcibly compelled to alter my message under any circumstances. And I do mean any. The prospect of financial loss or prison time or anything similar means little to nothing to me, relatively speaking. And secondly, that I'll never stop doing what I'm doing, because I'm literally incapable of stopping. This is who I am, and this is what I'm meant to do. I may move slowly at times, and I do apologize for that. And I think it comes from my obsession with finding the path forward, as opposed to just a path. But I promise you'll never see me pulling one of those, "it's been fun, but I'm going to stop fighting for what I know to be right now" type of stunts that some of the more unfortunate figures in rightist or dissident circles have pulled in the past. I'm not into any of this for personal acclaim, certainly not for the money, and it's not the type of thing I can just pick up one day and discard the next. I'd suggest that when one fully recognizes the enormity of our obstacles and the existential threats we face, and even more importantly, when one can catch some glimpse of the what could be and what will be when we someday win this broader struggle, every single other life path begins to pale in comparison. This is the all-important struggle of our age, at minimum. We've been gifted a chance to prove ourselves equal to those great and consequential men who have strode forward before us. And yes, it's a weighty challenge and a daunting struggle, but it's also a beautiful thing to be a part of and simply to have such clarity of purpose. Let's use this year to consciously take up and take on that purpose as a driving force, and promise to help build and channel this growing energy into its most refined and potent form. We simply have to. There is no room for failure here. Should we fail to rise to the challenge here, we'd forever cease to be, and I think the vast majority of you listening agree that our continued existence isn't up for discussion or debate. By any means necessary, we'll safeguard it. So the stage is now set. Let this be the year the tide officially turns, and let each and every last one of us find our ideal role in bringing it about. Hail, brothers, and a happy and fruitful New Year to us all.